Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world, and welcome to ADRAMADA, another Dave Rush Ask Me Anything digital alchemy. Come for the shirt, stay for the news and the project. If there's a project, and there is today. I am your host, the aforementioned Dave Rush, and I call me, Commodore ADRAMADA, and you are the wind in the sails of this ship. Therefore, you are the Armada. Sorry, the ADRAMADA Armada. I should actually read what I write, huh? Hey, well, we get together once a week at this very time and this very channel to talk tech. This show is devoted to collecting and disseminating information on all kinds of technology and its uses. And in particular, we're interested in how the advancement of technology impacts our daily and our long-term lives. We range through a wide breadth of topics as we celebrate technology from electric cars to electric guitars, music and movies. We got music and movie news today. The synergy of energy. We like to talk about booting to computing and Linux to ethics and the chase to space. So much space news today. We talk about cyber. We talk about fiber. We talk about security. We talk about electricity. We love to talk about Raspberry Pis and light communications, Wi-Fi and AI, and we're not afraid to delve into social topics. So glad to have you here. Today, as we record this live, is Thursday, June 13th. And today's date, June 13th, noteworthy for, I only pulled two things out of my news pile. In the year 1373, I like this one because things like this are always in the news, for the last, in my lifetime, half century plus, about various alliances and agreements between nations, whether it be the creation of the United Nations or the NATO Pact or whatever. And just today in the news, two countries signed a 10-year support pact. I'm just unclear on what that is. I haven't read it, but you get the idea. 10 years, and all the news people called that long-term. Well, here we go. In the year 1373, the 14th century, the Anglo-Portuguese Treaty of Perpetual Alliance was signed in London between King Edward III of England and King Ferdinand I of Portugal. That agreement, that treaty, is still in place today. That is a long-term agreement, huh? This little news tidbit pops up this time of year, every year. So on this date, this is June 13th, in the year 1920, the U.S. Post Office issued a new policy that says children cannot be sent by parcel post any longer. There were various instances. And I haven't given a count in a long time, so if you haven't been keeping count, time is flying by. This is show number 65 in the Survivor pile. We threw out a couple of the early ones. They were mysteriously deleted from the timeline because we were still working out technical issues and learning how to do this. Somebody posted on the fourth surviving show, so let's call show number 4, the other day, concerned that there were audio problems on that episode. And of course there were. We were brailing our way through things mightily. And so I responded and said, I'm sorry that show was over a year ago. I can't fix it anymore, but problems have long since been solved. Please check out some of the newer shows and see that. And he wrote back and said, okay, just wanted you to know in case you were still having those kinds of issues. Very thoughtful. I know, I'm one of the people at fault for putting Pepsi as number 3 now behind Dr. Pepper. Texans. I like Pepsi better. I said it a week ago or two. It's got more bite. Coke is too sweet for me. Dr. Pepper in general, too sweet. I bought a pack of root beer a couple of weeks ago and cracked a can. Wow. I mean, diet, no sugar, diet, whatever. Still so sweet. I understand what Quark has to say about it now. Hey, well, let's see who be here live and early. What is that? 8 hours before showtime, Shia Moonstone appears. Half an hour before showtime, Joey Quetzal's here. Oh, hello. Didn't see you there. Yes, I was wearing camouflage. The show was wearing camouflage. Patricia Grace pops in. Will Shaw. Long time no see on the show, my friend. Great to see you here. Everybody, Joe, Will is I assume he hasn't changed aircraft, so he's a Airbus pilot for one of the really big airlines. Now it's time to make a Boeing joke, right? I'll be doing that later. I'll let it go. It's coming. We're going to talk about Boeing. And Tullowit is here, pushing me down the road of a new game that I get to explore, and so be it. Jason Helms is here. Hey, Jason. So your idea is coming to fruition, my friend. We'll talk about that. Sound is good. I'm glad. What's going on, Tullowit? Hi, hello, everybody. She's back. If it's Boeing, it ain't going. There is a rivalry among pilots who fly different make and model of airplanes. I've been a Boeing guy forever. Even when I wasn't flying Boeing, I was flying aircraft from de Havilland that used a lot of the design principles, if not contract design work, from Boeing. One of the really cool things about Boeing aircraft is their switchology, their switch philosophy. You look inside a cockpit, you see lots of buttons and dials and switches and things like that. And buttons and dials matter, right? Is this direction off? Is this direction off or on? Well, in Boeing speak, when buttons are forward, they are on. They are used to make the airplane go. Flip them backward, not so much. They turn things off. Hey, ADRAMADA has a Discord server, and if you're watching this live, if you're watching this on archive, I just posted the invitation in the chat. Go right now, because this Wednesday we have a live event, kind of semi-live. We're going to hold the first ever ADRAMADA. I've ascribed a name to it. It's not. This is Jason's idea and Patricia's execution and input and ideas from lots of other people. But a couple of us were talking on the Discord server about some movies we were and are watching. And Jason said, hey, why don't we have a watch party? Which was really cool because I was thinking it at the same time, but he typed it in probably 20 minutes before I considered doing that. And so we're doing it. We're doing it this coming Wednesday, the 19th, June 19th, which is also, coincidentally, Juneteenth Day. And by the way, I ran across a blurb today. I didn't pay attention to this. Somebody double check for me if you don't know off the top of your head. Is tomorrow Flag Day in the U.S.? Anyway, so I'll give you some more details on that in just a couple of minutes. That's also a great way to contact me. I hang out on a whole bunch of Discord servers, and if we are co-members of them, you can DM me, and if not, just join one of these. If you want to contact me, though, want to see something on the show, want to complain about something on the show, you wouldn't be the first. There's a couple of email contacts in the chat that I just posted. You can catch me that way, and I'm on LinkedIn as, I don't know, Dave Rush, or David Rush, something like that. I'm on Mastodon, I'm on X, and all of those links. Any way you want to talk to me, if you want to follow me on those things, I do wacky things on some of those platforms. I did something, whatever, you'll find it. So let's see what's going on here. Quick couple of slides just as a review. Last week's show, we did a high-level overview of DMX lighting controls, right? When you go to a concert, you go to a stage show, you go to anything that's got moving lights, and it's got lights that change colors, and they got hazers and phasers and lasers and smoke machines. All of that is handled by a computer, either a computer with what they call a DMX interface, and there's some other kinds of interfaces, or by a controller that kind of looks like an audio mixer board. And we went through the technology of that, and the picture you're seeing right now is a very popular piece of computer application to do this. This is QLC Plus. This week's show, let's try that again, is talking about the SS command. Stands for socket statistics. And really what it is it's a tool that you can run as a user, and if you want really deep information as an administrator or with administrator privileges, to identify open ports, which are potential vulnerabilities in a server. We do that so that we can identify which ports are open, should they be open. If so, then we should be taking steps to protect them. And if they shouldn't be open because you accidentally launched that application a long time ago and forgot about it, or because some piece of malware has perhaps launched an application and you don't even know about it, hey, I'll run SS, look, why is this running? And now you got some recognition of it, you can knock it off. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. It's a lot of fun. Upcoming stuff. Next Wednesday, June 19th, we host our first ever movie watch party. We have completed steps 1 and 2 of 3. We picked a day and a time. That's step 1. First watch party, next Wednesday, June 19th, 6 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 p.m. Central Time, or whatever time it is in your part of the world. Step number 2, the platform. Patricia Grace just took the lead on this one and has set up so that she can stream some of her streaming subscription services to our Discord server. We're going to do it on the voice channel called General. And if you go to the Discord server, I just posted the link for it, but I'm going to post it again right now. You can go to the announcements page and see what's going on there. You can go to the Music and Movies channel and vote for the movies we're going to select, or the movie we're going to select. That will be step number 3. You can make your own suggestion. A couple days prior to Wednesday, on Monday or Tuesday, I will update the announcement in the announcements channel, identifying what movie has been selected. I'm thinking because this was the core of our conversation that got this whole thing launched, first movie is likely to be Godzilla -1. And kids, it's a Godzilla movie. I love Godzilla movies. A lot of us on here do. This one takes a different tack than all of them except the first one. Remember Godzilla, which was originally called Gojira, that was pronounced Godzilla by non-Japanese speakers, and I don't count myself among Japanese speakers, but I dabble. It was a protest movie. It was a commentary on the effects of nuclear war. That's what brought Godzilla up. And so, yeah, there's a Godzilla fight, and there's a Godzilla fight in this one. And this one is not the same commentary as that one, but it's an emotional movie. It's a good darn movie. I saw a quote the other day from the director, and the director said in his post, he said, I ran into and I met Steven Spielberg for the first time the other day, and Spielberg said, oh, you directed Godzilla -1. I've seen that 3 times. So, wow, what an honor that must be. All right. I didn't have a slide for this one. This one wound up in my feed. Cosmologists still forecasting a star explosion in our galaxy between now and September. No explosion yet. When it happens, it's going to be visible for a few days, up to a week, and should be the brightest star in the sky. We've talked about that in the past. So as soon as it happens, and hopefully it happens like on last night, on a Wednesday night, and we can talk about it on Thursday day and say, hey, look up tonight, it's out there. Upcoming, my schedule, just for your edification, next Thursday, show day, I have a gig that they want set up. I'm buffering, sorry, it looks like it's bad. They want it set up by 5:30. They haven't said that I can't set it up far earlier. It's a location that no traffic is a little over an hour away. So as long as they let me set up much earlier and I'm done by 4, I'll have no trouble getting here on the show. If the show is going to start late or if there's any problems, I know it's buffering. Sorry, I've seen that too. That's the nice folks at Comcast here. So I got a nice clean signal and a nice clean computer. I'll let you know one way or the other. So. What else? A month later, 3 weeks later, I will be at a concert here in Houston. Man, sorry about this bufferage. It's called the Totally Tubular Festival. Bunch of 80s bands, and they're only doing their top couple of hits. So they're going to be shifting these bands in and out. Who's going to be there? Everybody's favorite. I'm going to keep going until I see this thing stop buffering. Everybody's favorite, She Blinded Me with Science. And of course, there's other 2 big hits. You won't think they're all that big, but I really like Thomas Dolby. I know the stuff that he does that nobody's ever heard of. At Hyperactive and Europa, the Pirate Twins. Some days just not worth this. Phasers and phasers. Minecraft loves hammer. What a savings. 7. What are you doing? 7 Central, 8 Eastern. Thank you. You're exactly right. 8 Eastern, 7 Central next Wednesday. Thank you for that fix. There's nothing I can do. Everything is running as good as it's going to run from the house. So sorry, we have an unsmooth signal. What's everybody saying here? Cool, Shia. I think Gogeta -1 is offered through paid on a pay-per-view basis. I don't have a clear conscience on streaming from sites that skirt paywalls, but anything on YouTube. Okay, so we'll work that out this week. Might not be Gogeta. Might be something else. Thank you, Patricia. Yeah, evil Comcast. So yeah, Thomas Dolby's going to be there. Thompson Twins, actually half of the Thompson Twins. Tom Bailey. Modern English, right? We all know, I'll stop the weld and meld with you. And yes, from Men Without Hats, The Safety Dance. Everybody thinks it's called Safety Dance. It's The Safety Dance. The Romantics are going to be there. They have more hits than everybody else. Bow Wow Wow. You will know them for I Want Candy. The Plimsolls, actually from the Plimsolls, Eddie Munoz, and Tommy Two-Tone. Where do I know Tommy Two-Tone from? Well, the real song title is Jenny, but everybody thinks it's 8675309. July 4th, program note, is a national holiday in the United States. If you are watching from outside of the States, and you already know that if you're in the States, July 4th is a Thursday. We may or may not do a show. I'll let you know a week prior, but if we do, it won't be a project. Just news happened over the week, and then get back out to the barbecue. But I don't know. I just realized today that happens. And as noted previously, I'm going to bring this up every week as I haven't done any work on this project. Thursday, August 22nd, show note. I will not be doing a show. I will be in another concert in Ohio, and that happens during showtime, so it's unavoidable. I will, this week and weekend, seek out amongst my associates someone who might be willing to do the show. But I invite you or people you know to take the reins of the show on that date, August 22nd. And format's all yours. You can use my format. I'll help you prep. I'll make slides and research news articles and whatever, or I'll just give you the show for an hour. Give me somebody who wants to talk tech, has something interesting to talk about that will interest at least 3 of our audience. And hey, if you're interested, if you're even at the vaguest interest, if you always thought, I ought to try a podcast, maybe Dave would let me use his show as my launch. Yes, he will. All right, that takes us to news. Well, I go ahead and I got a local ISP now on fibre. So happy. No more Comcast. That's cool. Something just popped up in my feed from some friends of mine the other day. I did an ISP back in the 90s, back in 91, in fact. And I may have reason to become an ISP again. We're going to look at that. Until I can join for half an hour on Wednesday at that time. Got to cook dinner at 9 Eastern. Okay. Yep, you nailed it. You got the Jenny tune right on. Jason, the funny thing, this is everyone say the same thing no matter what ISP you have. Sure, nobody loves their ISP. Yep, definitely the 80s. Shy, AT&T is pretty good in my area. Okay. Pre-record a show and release it with live comment. Wonderful idea. Doable on almost any platform, but not YouTube. It would just go in the recorded show area. I know, I would love to do that. That would be interesting. Okay, do a pre-recorded show and save it as a file on one computer and then shoot it through Elgato onto OBS. But then I'd have to do a remote session here to get an interesting technical problem that might be fun to pursue. But still, I'd love to see somebody else take this slot for an hour and do something cool with it. AT&T would raise my rate every year, and I called, and they dropped it back down, but service was decent, okay? When you get the 5 gig download. There's no contract now for AT&T Fiber, but who knows? I wanted to be one of the first Google Fibers, but it wasn't in my area. All right. Where are we at? Oh, goodness. 7 minutes ahead of schedule. Yeah, fine. Let's do it. Worst thing happens is we wind up a little bit early, right? Just reading messages. Okay. All right, so let's talk tech news of the week. I got 5 or 6 stories, and one of them I combined a whole bunch of stories together, but they're short. Okay, there's number 1. Raspberry Pi Holdings. Okay, Raspberry Pi Holdings owns Raspberry Pi Trading and Raspberry Pi, I don't remember what the name of the charitable arm is, but whatever, and whatever other companies that they own. Oh, I forgot, I wanted to put this in. Hang on. Okay. Anyways, Raspberry Pi Holdings launched their initial public offering, their IPO on the London Stock Exchange 2 days ago. Their initial share price was set at 280 pence, which is about $3.50. Shares shot up over the next couple of days, running at about 360 pence, £3.60, which is about $4.50 US. So that's some cheap shares if you want to say I own a piece of Raspberry Pi. Raspberry Pi has sold over 60 million Pis since they've been around. I think I am responsible for about 500,000 of them. And a lot of the IPO funds, they say, will be used in part to ramp up production, because whenever they come out with a new unit, they sell out immediately, and it takes them a long time to catch up, and they never seem to have enough in stock. So, good plan if that's what they actually follow through with. I hope so. So the Raspberry Pi 5 came out earlier this year. It's got a new CPU compared to the 1s and the 2s and the 3s and the A's and the B's and the 2s and the 3s and the 4s. And every time that happens, because it's new, the current and the previous versions of operating systems don't work with it. They got to come out with a new one. And whenever they come out with a new OS, it has support for all of the older CPUs. So it's totally backward compatible, but they're never forward compatible. And that means organizations that make operating systems that run on Raspberry Pis have the same problem. They need to change the kernel so that it supports the newest CPU. So ever since Raspberry has come out, we see dribby-drabby newses of various OS providers who have made compatible versions now to run on the Raspberry Pi. So the latest, was there 2 that I have? Nah, just one in the news this week. Alma Linux is now available for Raspberry Pi. Alma is a really cool OS. On paper, I have never played with it in person. I get its idea, and I've had full confidence in it. Maybe. So it is a derivative, let's say, of Red Hat Linux, like CentOS, like Fedora's upstream, like Rocky. And Alma used to be like all of the rest of them. They basically cloned, they did what they call a bug-for-bug iteration of Red Hat Linux. But then Red Hat pulled their shenanigans a few months back, and some of the organizations, Oracle, Rocky, and a few others, SUSE, got together and they said, we are not going to let them get away with this. We have created a foundation that will make sure that the stuff that was always intended to be open source will continue to be open source, and anybody who wants to create an open source OS that's just like Red Hat can. You can get the sources from them. Alma said, you know what, we don't want to get messed up in that. We're going to continue to derive an OS, but no longer is it going to be exactly the same bug for bug as Red Hat. We're going to add some of our own features. We're going to fix some features that they haven't fixed yet. So they're like Red Hat Plus. And so now that it's up and running on Raspberry Pi, that's impressive. And I think it's time for me to experiment with them. Some of these bug for bug clones aren't 100% bug for bug. And I'm very proud to say I did my first unofficial bug bounty. I found a bug in Oracle Linux for Raspberry Pi months ago, and I submitted it. It's probably 6-7 months ago. And about 2 or 3 months ago, I got a notification and a post that it had been fixed, and many thanks. So cool. Let's see. Oh, and I have a big notice here. Alma Linux, also unlike current iteration of Red Hat, is using the Genome desktop environment. Oh no, I'm checking notes here. That's what I can get from ISP, but I haven't made. You can get 5 gig download from your ISP. 5 gig download is awesome, but if all of your links in your house are 1 gig, 5 gig download is kind of pointless. if you can't shove more than a gig through your in-house router, I want a much higher upload than I get. So I'm only doing like 150 download, but my upload runs like 5 to 7, sometimes 9 on a really good day. Give me a couple hundred megs of upload, I'm going to be a much happier guy. You can do a show about all Udemy courses I've started but not completed. Me too. I even picked up some more lately. It'd be relatable. Yep. I like that. Hooray for Alma. Okay. And Oracle Linux. Also, aka Unbreakable Linux. So many cool Linuxes out there, according to Oracle. Yep. Very nice. Okay, what's up on slide number 3? Elephants name each other. Elephants have names for each other. Adding to the list of 3 known species that appear to use names for one another, individual names. So from Colorado State University, in a report published June 10th. It was 3 days ago. Okay. Summary: wild African elephants address each other with name-like calls, a rare ability among non-human animals, according to this new study. They use machine learning. Okay, let's support machine learning to confirm that elephant calls contained a name-like component, identifying the intended recipient. Study suggests elephants don't initiate the receiver's call to address one another, but instead use arbitrary vocal labels like humans. The other 3 species: humans, dolphins, and parrots. Okay, some space news. Man, there's a lot of space news, and it's all related. So, last week, about 6 hours before showtime, back on June 6th, the Boeing Starliner made a manned, or should we call it person or crewed, trip to the ISS. They've made several uncrewed trips, delivering goods and so forth, but this time they took people up. Boeing makes Starliner. Did I start this sentence with Boeing Starliner? So if you say Boeing these days, you've launched a meme, right? Because Boeing seems to have a problem with keeping their sealed things sealed. So let's get back to that. The actual news of the trip was generally good. Wow. Okay, it's Starliner capsule. They had 2 people on board. The crew eventually safely docked. They were going in for dock, and then doing a systems check, they encountered a leak that prevented automated docking. It was a helium leak in one of the thrusters, or at least one of the thrusters. And so it was hand piloted in by the pilot, and he did a nice job, and everybody is there safe and so forth, and all kinds of good news and blah, blah, blah. And the names of the people that launched them and automatically locked while both were orbiting. And final approach was docking, followed by a brief interval with manual control of the capsule. And it was all shown on the NASA webcast. Related news. Capsule was delayed in docking because of problems with computer-controlled thrusters due to a helium leak. And it looks like Boeing just cannot figure out how to seal things. Whether it's a door plug in a 737 or 787 MAX or whatever, or whether it's sealing up helium paths in Starliner capsules. Yesterday, NASA confirmed that Boeing's CST-100 Starliner spacecraft has suffered a 5th, although minor, helium leak in its propulsion systems, as engineers work to prepare the vehicle for its return trip to Earth next week. This was a 3-day-old statement back on the 10th, looking at what impacts, if any, the 5 leaks in the module would have on the remainder of the mission, blah, 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 blah. More related news. This happened last night. NASA, not surprisingly, has all kinds of radio channels. There's encrypted ones, and there's private ones, and there's the public one, the streaming one. Well, they used a private channel yesterday for some training practice. And the training was a simulation as if a crew member were suffering from, what's the actual term here? Decompression sickness. And they went through all the right things, and he's got this, then we've got to get him in a suit. And then moments later they report, okay, the suit is going on, and now get full oxygen going to him. And the people who listen to this, wait a minute, people who listen to this, yes, this was supposed to be done on one of the private, what they call simulation channels, but it was mistakenly sent out over the streaming channel that's available online all the time that you can listen to right now. So if you were listening to it like some people just eat that stuff up 24 hours a day, you would probably believe that there was an emergency and a crew member with decompression sickness. It was not, and last night NASA put out word that there is no emergency situation. It was a simulation audio that was accidentally played on a live stream channel. Boeing does not get the blame for that one. OBS Studio 30.2 is available for beta testing. Some really cool, powerful new features. NV encoding, the NVANC AV1 codec. I don't even know what this is. Linux shared texture support, QuickSync, VA API encoders, all really amazing things. Now, two things that we care about this. One, this is only in the Linux offering of OBS. They're not trying it yet on the Windows or Mac offering. I don't know if there is a Mac offering. And two, any kind of beta doesn't always have its cool new features incorporated with the stable release when that's done. VOD tracking, HEVC support, WebRTC, and then with real-time out. There's a new experimental output format called Hybrid MP4. Combines, this is cool, fault tolerance of fragmented MP4, and it's fully backward compatible with regular MP4. So that one's kind of cool. I'm not going to read all that other junk. That's all the news that's fit to print. So let's see what y'all are talking about today. And then we will get into our project. All right. Relatable, Oracle Linux. According to Oracle, okay, so there's only one new message here. 5G, that is something. I'm not sure about if I'll ever need equipment, but they supply that. Well, if they do, this is really cool. We did that show on 2.5 gigabit here. You get a couple 2.5 gigabits and a couple 2.5 gig switches and a 2.5 gig interface. And one of the standards within 2.5 gig is that it's automatically, or it's got built-in bonding protocol capability. So you can take two 2.5 gig feeds between two switches, bond them, and get that whole 5 gig you might be looking at. That would be very cool. All right, well, let's talk the project then. And yeah, we'll see like this. This ready, and this ready. Okay. So what we're talking about today is the Linux SS utility. And we care about that because SS, which stands for socket statistics, sockets being an old Linux term, and it's still a current technology, but it is effectively morphed into meaning ports. And statistics, okay, no there's very few statistics that come from this thing. Facts and status comes from it, very much like statistics, right? So why do we care? Well, with the SS utility, we can run it inside our Linux box. Any box, a host that's just supposed to be a host, a server that's just supposed to be a server, and discover what services are running and that are listening to the outside world for requests for those services. Because as I said at the beginning of the show, sometimes you may run a service that you're not aware of. And that can happen for a number of reasons. One, because you were experimenting and your experiment set that service to be enabled every time you reboot and you've forgotten about it. Or you've picked up some malware that has launched auto-starting services, and that service is one that a particular hacker or group of hackers looks for to take advantage of your server, to perform malicious acts, to download, to make it into a bot, all kinds of things, right? So we want to know what ports, what processes are open and running in our boxes so we can decide, hey, that's okay, I want that service to run. This is supposed to be a web server, but that should be a good reminder for us that we should protect our web server using appropriate features and functions and security techniques and so forth. Or, oh my gosh, why is that running? Oh yeah, because this one use that I have this one customer that I let access to these files. So that's a okay thing to let continue to run, but we really got to protect the heck out of that with firewalls and access control lists and things like that. Or why is that one running? I never put that up. I don't remember putting it up. I certainly don't need it today. Let's get that thing down because that's a vulnerability. So, quick review then. What is a port? A port is a number assigned to a service or process that runs in a host. And if you have a service running in a host, that host now gets the new moniker server. It's providing a service, therefore it's a server. Some ports have been around for so long they have permanently assigned port numbers, and they're enshrined in the rules of the internet. We call these well-known ports, and they fall in the range of 1 through 1024. I thought I corrected it in my manual. 4. Okay. And there's actually, there's more than 1024. There's actually 2048 of them. Half of them are TCP ports, and half of them are UDP ports. And you're familiar with some of these, right? Let's go ahead. TCP port 22 is SSH. TCP port 23, Telnet. TCP port 21, it's always FTP. You can change it, but that's coded into its DNA, if you will. HTTP port 80, unsecure web service. HTTPS port 443, secure. All TCP ports. How about a couple of commonly used UDP ports that use well-known ports? DNS uses UDP port 53. Trivial File Transfer Protocol, UDP port 69. So those are the well-known ports, the first 1024. Then the next, up through 49151, those are called, they go by a whole bunch of different names. They're not dynamic. Registered ports is probably the most common one, but those are used by processes and servers that aren't granted exalted permission from the rulers of the internet, but some organization says we're going to use some number out of that pool, and hopefully nobody else will ever use it for their process. And probably everybody's favorite example of that is Microsoft Remote Desktop and Microsoft Remote Assistant. They use TCP. Anybody know this? I'll give you a minute. Microsoft Remote Desktop uses port what? I'll be watching the feed as I go through here. Yeah, no, I'm on delay. Checking to see what people are writing while I'm waiting for that. Sounds familiar what someone did with DSL. Got two lines and bonded them together. Yep. Yeah, DSL has also that native capability. They call them channels on there. All right, nobody's putting it out. Microsoft Remote Desktop port 3389. And then all of the ports from 49 152 through 65,534. There we go, 3389. Here they come. Thanks, guys. Sorry, I jumped the gun on you. Those are called ethereal ports, ephemeral ports, dynamic ports. Those are ones that a client grabs out of a pool for temporary usage when it communicates with a service. It says to that service, hey, respond to me on this number that I borrowed. And when we're done with our conversation, I'm going to dump that thing back into the pool. So we don't really care about those. It's the ones that the processes, it's the ones that the services are using that we need to check on and see if they're running and to see if they're listening on our system. Now, how do bad actors know if we have an open port or a service listening on a port? Well, it's a hard job for them because they have to send 65,000, 130,000 requests to our computer. TCP port 1, data request. TCP port 2, data request. All the way up through TCP port 65,535. And then again, UDP 1, UDP 2, UDP 1027, UDP 65,535. Now that sounds onerous, but the internet is fast, computers are fast. They can blast all those requests out in a couple of seconds. And then they just wait to get a response from any of them. If the service isn't running, it won't respond, and so no response. And if there's one running, they'll get a response. And then they get a list of the responding ports, and now they've got a base to attack from. Well, fortunately, we as users and administrators of these servers have access to their internals. And so we can just run a command that says, I'm not going to ping 130,000 ports. I just want you to show me what the open ports that you have running are. And for that, we use our friend, the SS program or SS utility. Let me fire up some putty here. And we will log in as, I don't know, pick any server at random here. How about Ubuntu Pi.local? Did I hit the enter key there? No, there we go. Okay, password is Raspberry, RASPBERRY. Cool. And then we share it with you. Okay. Cool. It's up and running. All right, so the first thing I want you to know is I got the idea to do this show from a website called Linux TLDR. And here is the link to the tutorial that they did that I borrowed a lot of content from. They have some things that didn't work the way they said they were, and so I did some my own research and got that. So that may be because of different versions of SS that they were using than I was using. I don't know, but let's go find out. Clear. Okay, we've got a connection. All right, so if we run SS with no switches, we get a lot of information on there that doesn't have a lot of context. Let me clear that and see if I can do something here. Yeah, that helps. There's a bit of a wrap situation here that's a problem. But you can see I'm scrolling up here. SS, without any switches, provides a ton of information. And if we look across the top the headers of all of the stuff that's running in here. We see this net ID, we see state, we see received packets in the queue, send packets in queue, the IP address and port of the service being communicated with, that's the local address and port, and then the peer address and port is who's connected to me and what's their return port, their ethereal port, their ephemeral port, and what is the process that's actually running this. So let's boil it down then and get a little more focused output, right? And by the way, if you want to go nuts, this is an amazingly powerful utility, and it has pages and pages and pages of manual. We ran man SS, and off we go, and off we go, and off we go. I'm just going to queue out of that. So it's really amazing. It's really powerful. If you were going to use this SS with no switches, as if this information had some use for you, and it may very well, what you might want to do is pipe the output to some text file. Tilde ssout.txt. Oops. Yeah, that's right. And once it's in a file like that, now I can use my favorite editor, Vim or Nano or whatever makes you happy, to go through that in a more productive way, perhaps. You can look at it with any word processor that made you happy. There are 4 key switches that we can use to narrow the focus of what we want to see. You can run all 4 of them if you like. Whoops. There we go. So let's just run one here, SS-T, and that shows me the active listening TCP ports. And you can see this one's listening on an IPv6 address, and it's listening to SSH. It gives names if it knows the names. Otherwise, we would see that as port 22. And here is the IPv6 address of the station that has a connection to it. And here is the ethereal port that it's answering on. When I ran this command, it queued up a response, which was 64 bytes. And it showed me this report before it sent out that response. So those 64 bytes were sitting in the outbound queue of the SSH server over there. If we were to look at it right now, it would say 0, but if I look at it with this command, it would show me that again. So I can see UDP ports, as TCP ports, I can see UDP ports. There's one active UDP port in here, and it's the one that's used by Raspberry Pi to do a network boot and install a new operating system. Nothing going on there. It's active, but nobody's using it, so okay. There's a couple other ones, raw ports and Unix sockets, and we use W and U for those. And let's see, the raw and the Unix sockets in here. Not much going on here. ICMP6 is going on, and there's that same UDP. That's a raw socket. But I only care about the TCP and the UDPs. So I know my 2 active processes right now, ones that are actually got something going on with them. They are actively polling, they're actively listening, they're actively engaged in a session, and that's the boot process and the SSH. But there may be programs running that are listening, but they aren't in use right now. And those are the ones that I got to know about so I can protect my system. All right, rolling down my notes here. So for active ones, we're going to add the letter L, and then we'll specify our socket type. We can say TCP, TCP, and UDP, but how about listening? Those are active. TCP sockets. Now we got some useful information here. IPP, Internet Printing Protocol. See that appear twice. So that is used for sending and receiving information from my local area printers. If I don't have local area printers, I might want to close those. That might be an open port situation. You can see it's got something sitting out here. Wait, oops, that's not 3,000. I got 128 bytes waiting to go out to the printer and in a couple different ways. Here's the one we're running right now. Internally, locally, 0000, current address is listening on port 22. And here's who's allowed to access that thing. It's wide open. That's okay. All these are, in fact. I got a MySQL server running because a few weeks back we set up a GitT server on this machine. And it needs a MySQL server, which is running internally, and port 3000. That's the web server that the GitT server runs on. And there's DNS running, port 53. So, okay, all of these are safe. These are things that I want to run. If I saw FTP running in here, if I saw SMTP, if I saw POP or IMAP or SMB or something like that, those are things that I don't recall putting up on this server or even experimenting with. And if I did, I remember taking them down. So if they were up and running, that says something bad is happening. And I sure ought to know what and why. Oops. How about UDP listening ports? Got a few of those. MDNS, multicast DNS. Here's a dynamic port that somebody's listening on, some process. There's DNS services listening. 631. 631 is part of Internet Printing Protocol. There's another dynamic port, and there's more going on with multicast DNS. Because I use this machine as a streamer. So again, if any of these were things that I didn't want running, that would tell me I shut them down. If there were things I want running, but they should have limited access, I would handle that with firewalls or with access control lists, things like that. Now, how about a list? Oops. I'm going to make an alias for that. Of my 4 types plus frags. This is actual statistics. And it's only showing me IPv6. Oh no, this is IPv4. This is IPv6. So I've got one IPv6 process running, a bunch of UDP processes, a bunch of TCP processes, a bunch of internet processes. Those include my network interface cards. And there's no fragment processes that purposely frags outbound packets. How about if I only want to see IPv4 traffic? LT4. Listening on TCP port 4 or 6. Okay, little differences there. Now there's one here, and this is where the tutorial's a little off. I want to see which processes are running listening to certain protocols by name or by number. I want to, because I can change listening ports from various utilities. I can say, hey, port 22, I want you to be a web service port. So I want to see all the processes that are listening to port 22 or SSH. And for that one, this is one that I really wanted you to see. I'm going to say SS, listening, TCP, UDP. I don't need the U in there. And then destination port is :SSH. Which processes are listening on port 22? None. Because we're not using UDP. I'm sorry. That's LT. That's TCP and UDP. So there's nothing that's actively doing anything like that right now. How about source ports? So I don't have any connections established to a destination of SSH. Source port. There we go. These are the ones I'm listening to. These are the ones that people would be sending to. So I got two processes going on there. : is any IPv6 address, and 0000 is any IPv4 address. That's a useful piece of command. How about all the connections by all the peers out there, by any other host? SS minus all TCP peers. And all it's telling me is anybody can hook up to any of these. I don't have any firewalls going on. Is that it? Yeah, that's everything that I need. We're head up on time here. So if you want to see a little bit more, there's not much more. You can check out that link that I posted at the base of the chat feed. SS Command, absolutely stunning and amazingly useful. We use it to identify what services are running in our computer and what TCP, UDP, RAW, or Unix ports or sockets that they're listening on. And now we've identified vulnerabilities. It's up to us then to act on those vulnerabilities. Secure them, but leave them available. Secure them and make them narrowly available, only to certain hosts or users or whatever. Close them so they're not listening anymore. And that was one final thing that I wanted to mention. We're a little bit over time, but it's worthy of mention here. You see all the time a term, close any open ports, close any unnecessary open ports or unneeded open ports. That's not something you can do. You can't say close port 22. You can make it firewalled. You can block port 22 so it'll come in and then it'll hit your block, your firewall, and won't go anywhere after that. But to close a port, you simply shut down the application that's listening on that port. So I wanted to get that language. People use the language all the time, or they read the language all the time, and they don't understand just exactly what's going on. Hey, well, guys, that has been our show once again. We will do this again next week, as we ever and always do. Sorry, finding my notes here, doing what's got to be done. There we go. That's what's got to be done. And so remember, this Wednesday, we're going to have our first watch party on the Discord server. Get the link anywhere. Send me a message. drushtx at Yahoo. drushtx at ADRAMADA, no N. If you're already connected to the Discord server, you'll see messages on there in a number of different channels. Hope you can join us on there. This is going to be a ton of fun, and it is our goal, it is our hope that this becomes a regular thing, weekly, monthly, whatever. And we're going to have some fun with this thing. And movie genre is completely open here. It could be technical, it could be comedy, it can be drama. I can't watch Schindler's List in a watch party with you. I don't want to be crying in front of you. All right, well, let's wind this thing up then. As ever and always, I wish you a great rest of the week. Take care of each other. Take serious steps to stay healthy, and if at all possible, call or visit your parents. And, of course, never forget, technology is great, but the greatest resource we have are you and I. And with that, I bid you good night. I'll see you on ADRAMADA Wednesday for the watch party, Thursday for the next episode of ADRAMADA on any other platform that I'm on. Until then, remember, how you do anything is how you do everything. Eat, op, ork, ah.